I'm David Kohn. I'm the Bereavement Coordinator for Alabama Hospice Care in Birmingham, Alabama. Grief impacts us in every way in our lives. It impacts us holistically. It's not just about those feelings that we have when we're grieving. So today we're going to consider 6 domains or 6 areas that may be impacted by our loss. The first one is our feelings. There are times grief sets our emotions into overdrive, leaving us with more feelings than we have ever experienced within a small portion of time. Feelings are all over the place. Well, these feelings, emotions are more intense than ever before when someone's grieving. These emotions may cycle quickly or take a long time to settle. The fact is that there will be times when we experience multiple emotions at the same time. This is common, and it really is helpful to think about the fact that there are a lot of people in the greater community of humanity who are going through the same experience with their feelings being all over the place. Well, number 2, our thoughts can be impacted by grief. That is, our thoughts or how we think can be definitely challenged, can be impacted one way or the other. The sensation of discovering our brains overflowing with thoughts, painful and complicated thoughts, overwhelming thoughts, is going to happen. The idea of, I made a huge mistake. I'll never be happy again. It's all my fault. No one understands what I'm going through. And on the list goes with our thoughts all over the place. Understanding these is a huge part of learning to cope with grief. Sometimes some psychologists call that activity of our minds going from one thought to another thought as the monkey mind. It's like monkeys in trees hopping from one branch to another branch, from one branch to another tree, and they keep hopping from tree to tree to tree. Guess what? That describes our thinking. That describes what's happening within our brain. It just is going to take place. It's common. Our behaviors can be impacted by loss and grief. After our lives were shattered by loss, we might have found ourselves doing things we'd never done before, behaving in ways we would have never behaved. We find ourselves snapping at people when we used to stay calm, or we might begin to isolate ourselves, although we have been very outgoing in the past. Maybe we'll find we need more time to be alone, to just be with ourselves, to take a few deep breaths. It's okay. Maybe others may find that we never liked to shop, but we began going on shopping sprees, and we're becoming not just familiar with the Amazon delivery person, but we're getting to know each other on a first name basis. Okay. Grief impacts our behaviors. Grief also can impact our beliefs. Sometimes this is one of the harder parts of this grief experience. It may be religion or our connection to someone greater than ourselves end up being impacted in some way. Losses big and small can impact our spiritual belief systems. Whether our faith was disturbed or we question our faith in good things coming back to us, grief may negatively impact or destabilize our spiritual world. On the other end of the spectrum, some grievers experience strength in their spirituality. They find greater comfort in religion, or greater comfort in a higher power, greater comfort in something or someone beyond themselves. A newfound discovery to the universality of human suffering leaves some people feeling a deeper connection to humanity. This is so common, it happens. And you've heard me use the word common several times because that really is true, that there's such a connection that what we're going through, other people are similarly experiencing some of those same things when they're grieving. Another thing that can be greatly impacted is our health. All of a sudden you begin to experience pain in your stomach, or you're not handling food too well the way you used to. You were able to handle something spicy and now it makes you very sick. Could that be a result of grief? Yes. And maybe somewhere along the line, it might be good to talk to your doctor about anything that's physically happening that's different within your body since the death or the loss of that loved one. Another answer is that loss may trigger all sorts of physiological responses. We may find that we're sleeping longer than usual, or we might find that we're not able to go to sleep, or we're not able to stay asleep. We become very restless. Forgetfulness, having a harder time paying attention, eating too much or eating not enough, experiencing headaches, unusual pains that you've never had before, muscle aches. These are all things to consider, but realize that as you're going through those things, there might come a time that you need to call your primary care physician and set up an appointment with them. And they might be able to provide an avenue of help for you during those initial months of grief. Another thing that's impacted is our sense of purpose. If you've been married for any length of time, you feel very connected to your spouse. If you have a significant other in your life, you have such a strong connection. Well, what if something occurs where it creates a loss of that relationship? We did so much together, and yet now we find ourselves at a juncture in the road where we're not sure what our lives are all about now. Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard observed that some existential crises can develop when our worldview is not able to accommodate unexpected life circumstances, which may occur from loss or trauma. Anything or anyone that brings into awareness the passage of time, suffering, and the impermanence of life may leave questions regarding our purpose in life and living. Our brains can be flooded with questions like, does it matter any longer? Aren't we all just going to die, be forgotten? The outcomes of grief may bring up deep feelings of angst and dread. All these existential experiences are normal and are a part of human development and maturation, especially when a person's grieving. So grief can impact our feelings, thoughts, behaviors, beliefs, health, and purpose. I appreciate you taking a few moments out of your day to consider grief's impact in our lives. Now, underneath this video is a description of this lesson. Within this description, I'm going to include my email address. If you would like a copy of this lesson, please email me and I'll be happy to send it to you. I'll be happy to send you copies of the first 2 lessons if you would like those too. Well, next month, we'll look for another posting on YouTube under the title AHC Grief Class. AHC Grief Class. Bless and thank you. God bless.